Good morning and welcome to Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson, best-selling author and accomplished public speaker specializing in education and educational leadership. I am your co-host, Jeremy Johnson, organizational psychology consultant specializing in career coaching, training, and development. Meet us here each week to discuss topics in education and leadership and meet with some of the top education talent and thought partners from across the globe. So grab your latte, sit back, and enjoy a relaxed conversation that will leave you informed and encouraged.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lattes and Leaders. We have a very special guest with us today, Martha Jaureguizar from Miami, Florida. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, this is a great day. I'm doing really well. Thank you so much. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I've followed you on Twitter and just enjoyed some of your posts, some of the things that y'all have done at your school. And so I'm excited to be able to let you share that today.
Thank you. It's an
So
honor. Thank you.
welcome. So let's just start maybe with a little bit of your educational journey from, kind of where you started to where you are right now.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I'm definitely a native Floridian, Miami girl here, and born and raised. And I am a proud product of the Miami-Dade County Public School system. And that's something I hold very near and dear to my heart. Um, I always tell the kids I still wear my high school ring because I want them to get to that point someday. It's really important. And the teachers, the administrators, and the coaches in my life, because I was involved very much so in athletics, just left such a huge imprint in my life and made so many opportunities possible, for myself and even my brothers to go to college. And I went to college for free, which is a gift. I always say that's like the gift that keeps on giving. But they inspired me. They really made a point to care for me, to tell me, I'm going to read about you someday in the Herald because I know you're going to be a great athlete and I know you're going to be successful. And when people say that to you and you're 9 years old and you're 10 years old, like you think, wow, what does this person know that I don't know yet? And I think that's the big power of the elementary level. So for me, even though I started as an architect major, I always say now I'm an elementary teacher and principal because I will always be a teacher, but I'm an architect of little minds and little hearts and little souls. And this is the foundation. When you're an architect, you look at the foundation, the floor plan of your building that you're constructing. And the elementary level is that for me. And if we can get it right at the foundational level, the opportunity for children to be more successful in the long term is absolutely much more hopeful, much more promising. And that's really my desire in the position I have. And with the amazing team that I have here, that we really do work together. And our hope is to cultivate a legacy of love for our boys and girls, for our families, for each other. Um, because when you're in a school setting and you live and breathe humanity every day, you feel the pulse of how important this work is.
And that's a good analogy, especially with the architecture, because you think about, I remember I was speaking in Chicago once and went up the Willis Tower up to the top, but you had to go down like 2 or 3 stories first to get on the elevator. But
Okay.
I just always remember that of thinking, the higher the building is, the deeper the foundation is.
Yes.
And I love that about you, the analogy of education at the elementary level is being that foundation that you're building. That's such a good analogy
Thank
to
you.
share with that. Absolutely. So you have been, one of the things that caught my eye about you is we talk about, and I share a lot about with leadership, the high turnover rate. Superintendents is about every 2 years, but principals is about every 3 to 4 years as well. What has allowed you, you think, to be able to sustain that tenure in your role, and what do you think are the benefits of you being able to stay in that role that long?
I think ultimately, sometimes you just find the right fit, and I can relate very closely with the clientele in our school. Um, this is a predominantly ESOL community. I'm about 98% Hispanic, so being bilingual and being
Mm.
able to establish a lot of trust and communication, two-way communication with your families is, I think, of the urgency in our day-and-day operation. I also feel the experience with the diversity and the programs that we have in this building, because I have, a huge ESOL. Yes, we have about 65 total ESOL percent, but we also have a very high ESC percentage, which is about 20, and we have a very high gifted enrichment, which is about 25%. And that's the background that both myself and our assistant principal, Ms. Nunez, we have together. So I think as a team, the reason we've been able to be here so long is just because of the fact that our program offerings and our instruction is so diverse that we have that ability to have the knowledge from the classroom perspective as teachers, which is where we served. And then as we elevated and moved into an administrative position, we have that expertise to also see how to meet with parents, how to connect with parents, but also how to make sure we work with our personnel to implement those programs with fidelity and to serve our boys and girls in this community in a way that brings a lot of honor to them and hope to them for a better tomorrow, the promise of hope for the kids to be able to learn a second language especially. And that has been something we've been able to produce through our results with our team consistently. But for this school, it's not so much of an anomaly. I have teachers here who've been here for 28 years. I have teachers who've been here 25. The majority of our staff is 15 or more years. And when your parents also choose your school, because our school district is a district of choice, and we do have quite a number of families that choose our school because of the fact that we really do provide those priorities that they're looking for. And we've been consistently able to implement that vision, a vision of safety, a vision of having a solid core values foundation for our boys and girls, of optimizing our boys and girls thriving socially as well as emotionally, academic rigor, which is super important for all of our boys and girls, and also our staff, because that's part of the instructional program. And that they can start here as early as 3 years old, because I do have pre K ESC programs as early as 3 and 4, and then possibly be here 7 or 8 years in totality. That gives us that foundational opportunity to equip them to the next level. And our results are, I always say, like, we defy statistics, and it's because of how we work. And people have heard me say it, we work hard and we play harder because we want to be also able to celebrate so many of these accomplishments. And I just feel blessed, and it's very humbling when you get to stay in a school that long. But one of the principals that opened the building was here for 17 years, Dr. Leonard Greenbaum. And so I feel like, wow, what an honor to follow in that legacy, as the seventh principal in this beautiful school.
Wow, that is amazing. And yeah, I agree with you. Like the play harder, that really is the business of children. And in education, sometimes at elementary, we forget that seems to be an option or a luxury, and it really should be the foundation part of it, because through it we can help them,
Mhm.
everything from their emotions to improving academically through that. And the celebrating part that you said is so often forgotten or done on such a small scale, but it really should be especially when you're winning the awards and things like that, it is something to celebrate, and it
Yes.
should be something that the school does. Because it's often said what we celebrate, the things that we focus on, are the things that get duplicated or replicated, and so that's a good focus to have. I was going to ask you, kind of alluded to it already, the staff, the number that have been there a long time, but how do you see that in your role, having been there for 15 and now your 16th year, impacting the staff turnover and also just the culture of the school with your staff?
Absolutely. I think school culture is the toughest thing, anything, whether it's a school culture, a company culture, an organizational culture. And I feel like that's come to the forefront now more. Our school system, I was very blessed in that the Office of School Improvement, when I was an assistant principal from early on, um, got me involved in organizations like the Florida Sterling Council, which is aligned to the Malcolm Baldrige program, and different school region directors and personnel from those offices involved the school I was at as an assistant principal that taught me those things. Excuse me one second. I'm going to try to not have the call come in. I apologize.
That's
Um,
okay.
they taught me how important it is to really learn that criteria. And lately, we have utilized Cognia as part of our accreditation cycle. And we've used that criteria to help us strive for improvement in very key characteristics. And I feel we go to school to become, teachers and administrators, and there isn't necessarily, a class that is devoted or dedicated to this particular area, at least not when I went through. And I find that as I'm mentoring new personnel, whether it's an aspiring assistant principal or like a rookie principal, that has become almost like the most important seed you can plant. And one of our teachers that I feel, just mentioned it the nicest, and it was Miss Jones. She was like, when you plant kindness, you grow greatness.
Mm.
And that's not just for the classroom, because you have to look at yourself as an administrator like, I have the largest classroom in the building because I have to live vicariously through every other person's classroom. And culture is something that we may look at, let's say, a school climate survey. Well, those questions aren't necessarily really aligned to culture. So I can tell you I've created my own surveys, and I love to use a program called Mentimeter. And I've tried to read about school culture tirelessly. And it's by reading about literature. I love things like, I love John Maxwell. I love Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, and Adam Grant. I read just nonstop about them, their books, especially Maxwell. And I follow his podcast too, because there's just these nuggets of knowledge that we can garner when it comes specifically to leadership and culture. And so I've tried to read all those articles to be able to create those surveys. So I'm asking the right questions of my staff that are not on a school climate survey per se,
Right. Right.
but they kind of really drill down to the nitty gritty of what is so important. And for me, questions like, I feel valued by my administrator. And that is paramount to whether you have longevity in your personnel. Because when people feel valued, when they feel appreciated, when they say they need things and you can help find a way to get them those resources that they need, then people are going to want to come to work.
Mhm.
They want to be here. And so many have, incredible friendships here. And that's another question that, and I'll bring up another situation, Gallup. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Strengths Finder series, but I'm very big in that as well. And that's one of the questions on Gallup that they will ask when they do these kind of culture surveys is, do you have a friend at work, or do you have a best friend at work? And you cannot really negate that environment here because it is so much embedded into the culture. So it's really vital to have an environment that is positive, that is uplifting. So whether I'm having a great day or not, and trust me, with my back surgery that I'm still recovering, I have tough days, but I will always walk in this building with a smile and a positive attitude because I know, I've seen it. People feed off of you when you are the leader of a building.
Yeah.
And
You're the
yes,
thermostat.
absolutely. And we may have struggles that, just like everyone else, we may not know about, but when you have a great culture, there's this sense of, authenticity to say when you're okay and when you're not necessarily okay, when you need help or when I'm in a serving modality. And I've really learned, my accident has really made me learn to say I need help. And for a leader, that's so hard. For me, like, oh my goodness, I think sometimes this was meant to be, so I would learn to say I need you guys to help me more. And it's been so heartfelt to see the staff, respond to my needs this time, which was really the reverse. But I've been here so long, like they know. We know Miss J would be doing this, and she can't right now, so we're gonna just pitch in and get it done. And that has just touched my soul in a way that I can't even. I will get way too emotional if I talk about that. But that's your culture. You know, it's how people feel, and I think the best way to gauge that is not just your staff survey, but for us, when like a perfect stranger will walk into our school and they say things like, you can feel the love in this building. I'm like, yes, that's what we're going for, that you feel the love. And that's kind of like one of our themes. It was last year's theme, which was cultivating a legacy of love. But all my years have kind of come to that conclusion for school culture. You have to cultivate a legacy of whatever it is you want it to be, that vision or that focus. And for me, it's love, because children at this level, especially, need to feel loved. They need to feel safe. They need to feel cared for. They need to not be afraid if they don't understand something to raise their hand. And those are kind of how we measure that capacity, because there's no exact survey for school culture that way.
Right, right. And that is so important. I love when administrators get feedback from their staff. I think that's, like you said, part of helping you grow. And it's so important to know what they're thinking and how they feel so that you know how better to interact with them. Like you said, what they need, their resources, things like that. So that is really a key part of leadership. And then,
Yes.
like you said, I love the part, and it goes back to having that connection with your staff because you've been there and they've been there. Is to
Yes.
know, for instance, like you said, well, she's at a place right now where she can't do certain things, and so they, are willing to pick up those,
Yes. I was just so
and
grateful.
get it done. Yeah, absolutely. And so, and you can, I say all the time, I'm fortunate. I'm able to travel all around the world, really. But when I walk into school, I can tell,
Yes.
you know,
Within seconds.
how the front office, interacts. People in the
Absolutely.
hallway,
Yes.
it really is it's
Mhm.
palpable. You can tell, the pretty much the culture of the school and the leadership of the school really is
Yeah.
reflected in that to a degree as well. So,
Yeah. You
and
see it
speaking of
and
that.
you feel it.
Right, absolutely. But speaking of that, I know that you've won, or your school has won as a team. Is
Yes.
it the Value Miami Cup? Did I get that
It's the
right?
Values Matter Miami Cup. Yes. Yes.
Value Matters Miami Cup. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Do you
And
want to share
it's
just a minute with that?
absolutely, I get so excited. So our student services division at the district level has an important program called the Values Matter Initiative. And it's founded on our district's 9 core values. And these 9 core values are really essential to our code of student conduct. They're essential to how we interact with the children in lessons and in activities, in our recognition, for example, here for our student of the month or students who do the right thing. And our counselor, Ms. Ceballos, is just like the most pivotal champion. And I always say we do proactive counseling. So she'll go into all the classrooms every other week and we do lessons on these important characteristics with our children here. And when we talk to the children, we talk to them about making good choices. And if you were demonstrating, respect, if you were demonstrating responsibility, honesty, those are all things that we find are so important. And words like kindness, so we try to find a way to catch everyone doing these things. And like you mentioned earlier, it's important to celebrate it. So that's tied into our posts, and how we post things to our social media, highlighting and showcasing our staff, our students, our families. And then, of course, we will, we tag the Student Services Division, we tag our superintendent, we tag the Values Matter Miami that they have just for that particular program as well. And I guess over the last 10 years, they've really seen that so consistently from our school. And at the end of the year, they always have awards. And for the past 10 years, we've won 4 times. The first
Wow.
award we won was for the value for cooperation. And that was a school award, which was really very, to me, indicative of what we do here. It is a team family mentality. 2 years after that, we nominated one of our high school volunteers and he won for the pursuit of excellence. 2 years or so during COVID, then the pandemic, our school was recognized for kindness because of all the things that we still did during that time. And then the 2 years after that, one of our 5th graders also won for kindness. So I guess being the school that had won the most awards throughout the 10 years, they selected our school to launch this Values Matter Miami Cup Award. And there was this like hyper secrecy. I didn't even know what was going to happen. They just said, we're going to kind of come and launch this new initiative we're doing at your school. And when are you doing your opening of school meeting? So I shared that information and they're like, well, we're just going to show up and it's just going to be kind of live. And we're going to present you with something, and then we'll be done in 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, no idea. But lo and behold, we're in the middle of our presentation with our staff, Ms. Nunez, myself, and the doors to the cafeteria open, and this like just huge group of ladies from the Student Services Division are here with pots and pans and maracas and different noisemakers, and they're bringing this giant trophy in like a velvet case. I didn't even know what it was. And then when they started to unwrap it, I was like, oh my goodness, it's like the Stanley Cup. And I know that because my husband, our first date was to go watch a Panthers game. And we've taken the kids over the years to go watch the Panthers game, and especially this Stanley Cup series. And so I was like, oh, this is so cool. And she's wearing the white gloves. And then I didn't sign like this affirmation as the principal. So I had to wear the gloves until I signed this affirmation. And I'm holding the cup with gloves because you can't touch it until you earn it, as everyone knows. And as soon as I signed my affirmation, I was like, the gloves came off and I was like hoisting it. And it was just such a great way. Our staff was videotaping and taking pictures. And when you have school awards and school honors, to me, that is the greatest gift because it is such an enthusiasm and motivational factor for your team to want to continue to really persevere and give their best because they're being validated. And I don't think we do enough of that in our work. As principals, we need to validate our teachers and our personnel more. And so being the recipients just was very powerful And it sent a message that what we do prioritize, because like I said, developing solid core values is our number 2 priority here. It really validated and elevated our work, that this is a product of what we do and why we do it. And so I'm just so excited. So the cup has basically transitioned, like the actual athletes get to take it home, for 24 hours. We've been sharing it in all our classrooms, taking pictures with all our people, and it's been very just it's like I've been a warm hug to be able to share this with our parents and everyone too. So I'm excited because at some point I will have to transition it to a different school and a new principal and a new school family. And I think that's the beauty of passing that torch, passing on the cup to another school that excels in this capacity. So I'm super excited. I don't know who it is, but we'll figure it out soon. And I'm trying to keep everybody posted, if I can, through our social media too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love the idea of it. And I love that really emphasize the celebrating.
Yes.
It should be, school should be fun. We should celebrate successes and make it a place that not only students want to be, but that the adults want to be as well. So I love that. And congratulations on winning that, being the
Thank
first
you.
one. That
Well, I
is
will
amazing.
tell you, Brad, one of the things that I have to share, and this is something I formed this wonderful friendship through social media with Sean Gaylord, who's a principal in North Carolina. And he would always reply to certain posts and things. And at one point, he put the hashtag celebrate Kaylee. And I always say I have to honor him with that because it was such a beautiful hashtag for our school. He's the creator of hashtag Celebrate Monday, and it was founded through work of Todd Whitaker's that he had read. And he has a wonderful book that he talks about celebrations and things. And we have always celebrated, but we never had our own hashtag. And he really taught me the power of having a unifying hashtag like that, that you can constantly use when you're celebrating. And so if you're going to be talking about your school, you can share that information with others and they can literally pull up that hashtag and just see this whole entire beautiful history of what your school has celebrated. And in a world of a lot of negativity, I think it's just so
Mhm.
important to also showcase those beautiful moments, and experiences that we share as a school family, and that has helped us when we do our social media posts to have that hashtag as well.
And that is a great idea. And like you said, it's a way for to pull up easy and find. And we do need that. We need the good, the positive out there to kind of
Yes.
counter all the negativity.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
It's the tough one.
Okay.
What is this is called Lattes and Leaders
Yes.
for a reason. So, what is your hot beverage of choice?
Well, I'm definitely a Miami Cuban girl, so I am a café con leche, which is basically Cuban coffee with milk. I have that every morning. It is my go-to morning drink. And every now and then I'll have it with some toast and butter. And as a Cuban, what our tradition is, you kind of dunk it into the café con leche, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
your morning snack. Obviously, with Cuban bread, it tastes even sweeter. But definitely Cuban coffee and milk for me.
Awesome. Now, just one in the morning, or is it more than one?
No, it is just one in the morning. Every now and then in the afternoon, they come around with little cafecito shots too. That's very
Okay.
common here in Miami. And depending on the day, I may get a shot, but not normally, not normally. But I do enjoy it, and it just reminds me also of my parents and my grandparents and growing up.
Oh,
And so it is definitely a family thing, family tradition.
oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. I love what you're doing there, your focus,
Oh,
the value driven education. I just think is so important, especially today. It
yes.
seems we focus so much on testing, we forget to really, prepare children holistically to be a good person really in the
Absolutely.
world. And so I
Yes.
love that your focus is on that and taking care of your staff too. So yeah, thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you keep up the good work, and we'll see what your next award will be.
Well, all I can say is thank you to you because you are, with this platform, giving a lot of us that opportunity to share ideas and our thoughts and our practices. And I do feel, the principal job can be a very lonely job, just like the superintendency. And I do think that at the end of the day, one of the things I always say is that nothing of great significance is ever achieved in isolation. And
Mm,
this is a social environment. We need to teach children to be able to communicate socially so that they can not be necessarily so, stuck to a phone for their communication. And the more we are able to work together and collaborate together, whether it's obviously in a building or through, digital media like this, the better equipped we're going to be of service and of value to
mm.
society. So thank you so much. Again, it's just an honor to, be able to finally connect with you in person this way. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you for your time and sharing your expertise. We really enjoyed it. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
This has been Lattes and Leaders with Dr. Brad Johnson. We hope that you leave today feeling informed and inspired. For more educational content, be sure to add this podcast to your list and follow Dr. Johnson on any and all social media platforms. For more information on Dr. Johnson, Jeremy Johnson, and special guest, check out drbradjohnson.com. That is DOCTOR, bradjohnson.com. Hope to have you back soon.